Jim Brown is here. He is perhaps the best running back ever to play the game. He is an NFL Hall of Famer. He is in New York City for the 15th Annual Thurman Munson Awards. He has done a lot of work with gangs since he is living in Los Angeles. He is a man who carries a voice of credibility within sectors of this community, and he speaks to people, and he is here to talk about some of those issues that concern him and a lot of other things, and I'm very pleased to have him here. Welcome.
Thank you, Charlie. It's
great
to
have you back. The Thurman Munson Awards, what are they?
Well, basically, they picked out about 8 people from different sports that's doing a certain kind of community work. Yeah. And they are awarding these people. I think John McEnroe is one of them, Tracy Austin, Bonilla. Right. And so they're just recognizing those of us who they believe that's doing something in the community.
Well, you certainly are doing that. I want to talk a little bit about that. Where does it stand now? I mean, you, as I said, can speak to, and you have members of at least the 2 primary gangs that I know about in Los Angeles. You speak to both of them. Where does it stand today?
Well, Charlie, we're making tremendous progress, not only in L.A., but across this country, because my approach is credibility, consistency, and education and economics. And I know that the disenfranchised young people who are negative would love to turn their lives around, but it's very difficult to get back into the system. So I spent the first 5 years developing relationships with the gang leaders, shot callers across this country, then getting them into an educational program that deals with life management skills, then developing their abilities to teach it, which brings economics, and then try to hook that up with the system. A very difficult, tedious job, but it's working. We're in 15 states now. We're here in New York. We have our first Academy of Learning in Trenton, New Jersey. We've hired about 50 people there, ex-convicts, ex-gang members, who are actually training the inmates in about 15 facilities. So we've made a lot of progress.
What process do they have to go through? I mean, first, how do you reach them? And how do you get them on board? And then where do you have to take them so that the system, that they can connect to the system?
That's a great question. The first thing I had to do was get involved with the Crips and Bloods in Los Angeles in a movement called Stop the Killing that's actually started with Minister Farrakhan, who came out and gave a speech and had a meeting at my house. I continued that concept at my home, where I would have meetings of 400 to 500 Crips and Bloods on finding ways for them to come together and stop killing each other. And that evolved into the educational program and into the prisons. The first thing you have to be able to do is treat them like you would treat anybody else. So I started at my home. Yeah. And when you invite someone to your home, they become a part of your life. When you listen to them, they respect you. And with that respect and caring and that trust that's developed and consistency, you then can move to the technical education of life management skills. And from there, you deal with a holistic approach to their problems, which means a job, which means getting back to taking care of your kids, the mother of your kids, getting your kids in school, getting a checking account, all of these things that we take for granted. So it's the same way you would approach your children. There's a transition that has to take place over a number of months. It isn't like a turnaround. But you will find that if you give them a platform with some dignity and caring and consistency, most of these young people want to change their lives around.
Most of them do. They don't want to be on the street, and they don't want to be involved in a life of crime?
Absolutely. If given a choice, they would do the same things that everybody else do. But there has been the rich has gotten too rich. Capitalism is running amok. The educational system is going down. The drug industry is an alternative industry. Crips and Bloods claim that they have family among themselves. The African-American father is not in the home. The rap music, the gangster attitude is taking over. All the Crips and Bloods outside of Portland, Oregon are white. There's been denial in small cities, but gangs are moving across this country. Prisons are being built. Recidivism is an all-time high, and the approach has been lock them up. You'll lock up 1 million of them, it won't make a difference. Only through education and caring and an involvement in the economic system can we really make this a healthy situation again.
Who supports you?
I'll tell you something that's very interesting. Special people. The Herb Alpert Foundation, they have been wonderful. The most conservative...
This is Herbie Alpert, the musician
yes,
and music executive.
Absolutely. Not only with us, but just other organizations. Michael Antonovich, the most conservative supervisor in L.A.
Right.
I mean, all the liberals are doing other things. George Foreman, Big George, wrote us a check a year and a half ago just out of clear blue sky. Followed the work, liked the work, said, Jim, come down and have a check for you. That went into the nonprofit foundation, helped the kids in school. Walter Chapman here in the Department of Corrections. Dr. Broadus here. We're in New York State. And I'll tell you something so interesting. The governor of New Jersey.
Kristen Kahn Whitman.
Yes. Dynamite. I
took notice of what you were doing.
Took notice of what I was doing. We have our most advanced program in Trenton, New Jersey. The Senate, the House, the governor, the Attorney General, the #1 activist created our first educational foundation, which is the first Academy of American.
But do you get any public funds?
We deal with contracts. We are first a for-profit private corporation. Then we deal with a non-profit foundation. You can never make change through a non-profit foundation, major change. You must understand delivering a service and getting paid and being able to write a check and being able to develop people who you normally couldn't develop through a nonprofit because nonprofits only want the traditional. We deal with the untraditional individuals who have the negative power. Once they turn that into positive power, you can effectively deal on that particular level. The nonprofits are designed here. But if you start with the profit, develop these individuals, then they can buy in to the nonprofit. They can pay salaries for them to do things in schools that the schools can't pay for.
Tell me what, and I just take time to tell me this, because much has been written. You may have seen a New York Times Magazine article about a month ago or 6 weeks ago about the African-American man in contemporary society. And John Singleton and Bob Herbert, the columnist for the New York Times, and a whole lot of people came together, African-American men, to talk about what it meant to be a black male in this society. What does it mean? Tell me what you think about that when you hear all that talk, almost about, in a sense of how not understood, a whole generation being wiped out because of some of the ideas that you're addressing. But how difficult it is, what are the problems, what is the perception? You know?
Well, the problem is all of those people are coming together without having the intellectual capacity to understand the situation. And I'll challenge any of them. First of all...
You mean those people that came together in that magazine article?
All of them. I mean, whatever, whoever, however, because here's what I'm saying to you. You don't need to go anywhere to understand what the African-American male has to do.
What does he have to do?
We have to do this. We have to understand, firstly, that we are proclaimed African-American in a negative manner. We do not have a history of defining ourselves. Therefore, we have a problem identifying with the positive aspect of who we are. Because in America, if you're upward mobile like Magic Johnson, are you an African-American or are you rich and famous? So first, we have to identify that in order to make change, we have to be able to get those African-Americans who are spending all of those dollars using white managers, agents, and representatives, get them to understand what reinvesting in the African-American community is. Understand that your economics must be controlled by yourselves. You take the education and economics, you combine them, then you have clout. But if Jerry Buss controls Magic Johnson, Magic will be an individual millionaire. John Singleton will be in the studios, but the masses of young black kids will not have any advantage as a young entrepreneur because there'd be nowhere, no capital base to go and make a loan, no pool of expertise. So the first thing we have to do is come back to community, start rebuilding that community, let it be profitable for those who have the money, but we have no capital base. We might discover oil in our backyard. Right. We can never go anywhere and get the money to refine this and to become the producers. We must become producers, take responsibility ourselves.
I hear you. And why is it that way? I mean, is it because of discrimination, back through
education, knowledge? We are used to being civil rights workers. Dr. King was a wonderful man, but his concepts were totally inadequate for this country. We must use the rules of the Jewish community, we must use the rules of the Japanese community, we must use the rules of the Korean community. Every community that has advanced, have advanced by coming together itself first, defining its own economics, defining its own community, and then dealing on an equal level with the community at large. We did it in the South. When we were segregated, we did it through North Carolina Mutual, Atlanta Life. We had movie
as
theaters,
well.
we had business, and we had family pride. The industrial North, the migration took that away from us. King wanted to integrate a little white kid, a little black kid going up a hill.
Right.
Nonviolence has nothing to do with getting off our butts, utilizing that economic power that we have, bringing it back to our community, reinvesting in our communities, developing our schools, being proud of our families, and then dealing with others.
What's the consumer spending power of African Americans in the United States?
We would be about the 8th largest country in the world.
In terms of consumer spending power?
If we used it properly, if we turned that around and became producers, we'd probably be the 8th strongest nation in the world.
What leaders do you admire?
Boy, I'll tell you. If I go historically, Paul Robeson would be my number one man. This is probably the most talented individual I'd ever lived. If you deal with an inspiration for a moment, that would be Malcolm. If you deal with Farrakhan from the standpoint of turning the most disenfranchised individual around, he's been the most important individual to the black community in modern times.
Louis Farrakhan has been the most important individual to the black community in modern times.
Yes. He has turned more individuals around than anyone. Those individuals who have been very harmful to our community and given them discipline and or respect for self, et cetera, et cetera.
And what do you say, though, to those members of the Jewish community especially who listen to him and think they hear and believe they hear words of anti-Semitism coming from him?
I've never met a black person that was anti-Semitic. It's a fragment of their fragment of their imagination.
You can't just say that, Jim. As you know, you got to address what Minister Farrakhan says.
No, that's not true. I don't have to address it. Let me finish, Charlie.
Okay.
I don't have to address that. Minister Farrakhan talks about black America. He talks about white America. He talks about Jewish America. He talks about everything that he thinks is negative. If I pick out the things that he says about black America, I might hate him. But what he does is he uses his own mind to say things because he is a speaker. I'm not a speaker. I'm a doer. I work in the particular arena that I work in. I recognize certain things in the Jewish community that I like and don't like. I recognize certain things in the black community that I like and I don't like. My issue is never to represent Farrakhan's words to anybody. Why should the Jewish person tell me that I'm responsible for the Louis Farrakhan?
I'm not sure what they're saying that, but they're saying that you just said Louis Farrakhan has had an extraordinary impact, probably more than any other contemporary leader, impact on the African American community, right? That's what you just said.
The fact says that. The people that he deals with are doing the
young
best
men and
work.
women who have lost their way because of the discipline and because of the direction that he preaches turns their life around.
Oh, absolutely. The prisons, the dope addicts, this is historically true.
And what's it about? What is it that he says that does that?
It isn't basically what he says. They have a program of rehabilitation. They get people off of drugs. They get people into a religion.
But how is it that they do it, is my question.
Well,
what is it about the program? How are they different? How is it that, why does it work? I mean, clearly it does. If you go inside a prison, there is a sense of pride, there's a sense of community, there's a brotherhood within prison.
Well, you're answering the question.
Right, okay. But
they have a sense of pride. They will do for self. They will speak out against anyone. And they will be law-abiding. Yeah. And what they have the courage to do is to not be intimidated by white America's opinion of them. Most of our black leadership are controlled by white America because the purse strings are controlled by white America. When whoever control your purse strings are basically going to control what you say.
All right, well, let's talk
Charlie,
about
these things can be documented.
I know, all right, but you also, are you a member of the Nation of Islam?
No, I'm not a member of any religion.
You're not a Muslim, are you?
Oh, not at all. Okay. I wear this, but I'm not a Muslim. Okay. It's my tradition. They recognize this before they recognize me.
All right. Just staying with the sense of the civil, do you believe, does Jim Brown believe that the civil rights leadership in America, the traditional civil rights leadership, whether it's NAACP, whether it's the Reverend Jesse Jackson, whether it is the Urban League, all those traditional civil rights organizations, are not working in the best interest of African Americans in this country?
Oh, I think they're all working in the best interest of African Americans in their own way. No, I believe that within those organizations, there are people that really want things to change. I think that it's very difficult for them to accomplish that because of the nature and makeup of the organizations. The Urban League, I like John Mack in L.A., and we work with him. But the Urban League
Hugh Price here now.
I'm sorry?
Hugh Price here in New York.
Oh, yes.
Right.
But they have a big nut. They need tremendous donations. They depend upon those donations. So they have to draw the line on what they say and what they do. And that's understandable. So when I deal with the Urban League, I take those particular limitations in mind.
But then you were suggesting that they don't say what's in their heart and what's in their brain because they don't want to lose that flow of capital from the white community.
Well, that happens with politicians, too. I mean, that happens with people on radio shows. There are basically limitations to what a person can say and still be accepted by the particular corporation that employs them. So, yes, if you're part of the Urban League, you're going to be somewhat conservative. If you're part of the NAACP, you're going to be somewhat conservative. Yeah. When you had King, you had also Stokely Carmichael, Black Power versus nonviolence. Mm-hmm. So Stokely was on the outside.
You had that in the conflict between Malcolm and Martin, didn't you?
Absolutely. You had two diverse philosophies. The people that speak out are always going to have the greatest problem surviving. There's no doubt about it.
What's the biggest misconception about you? I mean, the perception about you, and you and I have known each other for a while, was that this is the baddest man around. Right?
Yes, oh yes, throughout my life.
Did you revel in that? Did you like that because you wanted people to respect Jim Brown and to fear Jim Brown and to... I'm not talking about the football field either, because you did. I mean, Sam Huff had the great line. The only way to tackle Jim Brown was to grab a hold of him and hang on until he fell down.
You know something, Charlie? The worst thing about me is that I'm a great American.
Why is that the worst thing?
Because I believe this is the greatest country in the world, and I believe I'm as good as you.
And so do I.
And I don't accept anything. And because I don't accept second-class citizenship, I am one of the most controversial individuals on earth. But because I am an American, I want everything that anybody else wants, and that is my problem. I don't think you can qualify me.
Right.
I don't think I have to accept a second-class situation. I have pride in who I am, and that's what people have a problem with. I graduated on time. I didn't take 7 years to finish college. Yeah. I got the Silver Anniversary Award from the NCAA as one of the 5 recipients of the student athlete.
And what's your brief with the Black Coaches Association? John Thompson, John Chaney, Nolan Richardson, I think, is part of it, and other black coaches.
I deplore anyone that expects the system to make certain exceptions where you want an extra scholarship and claim that if you don't get it, it's going to hurt the African-American community. That's very narrow-minded. That arena is a very minor arena from the standpoint of true change in this country. I don't think, I guess, Proposition 48, I think that in 1994, every athlete should be able to pass any tests. I don't waffle on that. I don't want to hear excuses, and I don't want to be a person that have great expectations of others to change the rule. We all need a jump start. If you're going to go into business, you need some investment capital. But to get out and make an issue and to say we're going to boycott something because you have taken away their scholarship, when you've got young gang members out there killing each other, when these high schools are deteriorating, when the prisons are being filled up, I think your priorities are way out of line. Because these athletes go on to make tremendous amount of monies. They don't do any meaningful investment back into that community. These coaches are removed from that community, and here they are making all this fuss about a person who's elite already because they have an athletic talent, and they want to maximize this athletic talent and minimize the fact that these kids from junior high school should be into their books. So that's my story. It's not even debatable, Charlie.
You're a friend of Muhammad Ali.
Yes.
A hero for you?
No, just a man that I like and I respect for the things he's done.
Yeah. How's he doing?
Ali is doing well. He has a sense of humor. He recognizes the individuals. He knows the small things about you that he knew from the past. And he feels good because people love him. He travels a lot. And he's an ambassador to all people because Ali loves all people. He used to walk in the ghettos. He said, come on, Jim, let's walk in the ghettos. He loved white people in England, no question about that. And I realized that he liked all people. And I think he's very healthy for the country, and he's doing well, contrary to what people think.
You like Foreman?
Yeah, Big George has come a long ways.
Were you surprised he won?
I was surprised that Michael Moore would fight the way he fought. No, that fought the way he fought. He didn't take instructions,
he really
and he
didn't.
played to George's forte. And George was very bright in waiting, and I guess he picked Michael in a sense because he knew that Michael would probably stand there and move in the wrong direction. But it wasn't really surprised because George has been very clever in these latter years. He keeps all that weight on. It works in advantage. He knows he has a good right hand, and he waits for it. He's a good defensive fighter, so it wasn't a major surprise for me.
O.J. Simpson. What do you think about all this?
I think it's probably one of the most, oh boy, it's one of the greatest tragedies that we could ever have. There's no win in any direction. Whatever happens, it's a tragedy. And every negative thing that you can bring out about this system is basically coming out. It's very unfortunate, but yet it's very educational.
You mean the legal system? What system?
The legal system, the technicality of the judicial system, O.J. himself, the other people on both sides of the coin, the fact that the victims are basically irrelevant from the standpoint of the general public dividing up white one side, black another side, the prosecution leading with Darden, the defense getting Johnny Cochran, the media coverage, the tabloids, the books, the money. All of these things represent the worst part of our system.
What part of the story do you think hasn't been emphasized that should have been emphasized?
I think the one thing that America has to realize is small people are heroes because of the things they do when nobody sees them. When you do someone a favor, when you help someone, it isn't publicized. The role model concept, the hero concept is dead. There are no heroes because of physical capabilities. There are people that do good things and sometimes do bad things. And for America to hold on to images and to develop images and to get behind those images and not get behind the real person is a tragedy. We're teaching our kids to be an image, not a person.
But if I can decipher that, are you saying that O.J. Simpson was a good man and a bad man?
Like all of us.
Like all of us.
Yeah, he's no different.
O.J. Simpson, what else are you saying about this man? I mean, because if you read some of the stuff that you have written about him,
before this event.
Before this event. It's possible to read into your autobiography, Out of Bounds, written in 1989. Quote, the juice likes to pretend he's modest, but that's just the juice being the juice. O.J.'s extremely smart. Man knows how to make a buck, and his all shucks image is his meal ticket. He's not about to jeopardize it by being honest. I never look at him the way I do Bill Russell or Walter Payton. I talk to those guys, see them speak. I know what I'm hearing is the real man. Too often I can't say the same about O.J. Then you said to the Sacramento Bee in February 2nd, 95, it's embarrassing, actually embarrassing to see certain Americans wanting to hold people up in front of us as our heroes and then fight to keep them there regardless of what the facts are. And I don't have to wait until the trial is over because at least a portion of the domestic violence has come out.
Well, all that wasn't in the book.
No, I know. First part was in the book. Second part was the Sacramento Bee.
Well, that's very true. You know, Jim Brown is real. I have good things and bad things.
Right.
I know that everyone is maybe striving to be better if they're bright. We in our country become so commercial until everything is based on money and power. So you give me Magic, you give me O.J., you give me James Worthy, you give me all these guys and tell me that if I don't go for them on the surface, then I'm bitter, when I know Bill Cosby has good sides and bad sides. Yeah. I know that about pretty much anybody that I take notice of, and I especially know it about myself. So I'm saying let's get real. Let's present the fact that Martin Luther King was a great man, but he also made mistakes. When I talk to my daughter, I'm going to say Martin did this, he had courage, he stood up, he did these things, but he also did this. That's all I want. Let's deal with the truth of who we are.
Deal with
We're
the
not
truth, be
Jesus.
honest, and also know the whole person.
Yeah, know the whole person, and accept that as something that we can live with.
They tell me you have to go. I thank you for coming.
Thank you,
Pleasure to
Charlie.
have you here.
Good. Hope you can come back again.
Oh, anytime, Jim. Jim Brown, thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next time. See you then.